Hey everyone, and welcome back to the trail. I'm starting the Collegiate East section of the Colorado Trail, which between Twin Lakes and Monarch Pass, or I guess Colorado Highway 50, which goes to Salida, is the Collegiate Peaks Wilderness. And you have two options there. You can take the Collegiate Peaks West route or the Collegiate Peaks East, and the official Colorado Trail goes on the Collegiate Peaks East. The official Continental Divide Trail takes Collegiate Peaks West, and generally the west route is known as being more scenic. There's more terrain above tree line and it's higher elevation. It's also known as being more difficult because of the higher elevation and high passes. And Collegiate Peaks East is known as being lower elevation. You're in the woods more. And I'm just doing east because I've done west before, last time I was out here in Colorado. There's more access to 14ers from the east side. And I was looking at the maps last night. I think I'm gonna try Mount Yale in a couple days, which is a 2-mile side trip from the Colorado Trail, and you're already pretty high up there. There's a bunch of other ones, but they are way longer hikes. So that's that. The mosquitoes have been insane out here. I was in Twin Lakes yesterday, and there's a little town there. There's a general store that accepts hiker packages, which is where I sent food to myself. And there's a bunch of food trucks and a little coffee shop in like a old VW minivan. And this whole last week, I've just been getting swarmed by mosquitoes, which I did not expect in Colorado. It's usually places that are either really marshy or have a lot of lakes. And I was thinking when I got down to Twin Lakes, the situation would be better, but it was actually just way worse. And I shout out to Al from the visitor center. He's lived in Twin Lakes for 24 years, and he said this is by far the worst mosquitoes he's ever seen. So congratulations to Colorado Trail class of 2024 hikers. You are surviving, hopefully, the worst mosquitoes maybe in the history of the Colorado Trail. So every time it gets worse and worse, I think it's going to get better, but then it just keeps getting worse. And after I left Twin Lakes, there was a big fire detour, and I'm just walking through sagebrush, which is pretty dry, and usually there's no mosquitoes. And all these clouds of mosquitoes were getting kicked up, and that was the worst mosquitoes experience I've ever had in my life. And my previous worst was in Yellowstone National Park, when I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, and I didn't even have bug spray or a head net or anything, because I had only backpacked in Arizona, where there's not a lot of mosquitoes. And so that was, again, clouds of mosquitoes late June out in Yellowstone backcountry is just, you're gonna get swarmed. But this was even worse. So that was insane. And fortunately I made it through this like sagebrush section, got back on the trail, and I was still getting swarms, but it wasn't as bad. So that's been the big challenge. The thunderstorms haven't really been too severe so far. The weather's definitely been on the warm side. It's gonna get even warmer this weekend, probably in the mid 70s, around 10,000 feet is the forecast I saw. So that's pretty warm. But yeah, I'm hoping a couple days into this, the mosquitoes will die down. So that's that. And then the hiker appetite is definitely in full swing. I'm a couple weeks into this thing. That's really when the appetite starts to kick in, and I for sure underestimated how much food to bring from Leadville to Twin Lakes, which was about 3 days of hiking for me. And I finished all my food like the end of the third night, and I had to walk 4 miles without food to Twin Lakes, which was okay because there was lots of food there. I ended up spending like $40 or $50 probably on food throughout the day at Twin Lakes, because you're paying tourist prices, and a little burrito is not filling me up. So I restocked on food, got my food package, got more food at the general store there, and I'm all ready to go for Collegiate Peaks East. And just to add a little more color from my day yesterday in Twin Lakes, I had a really awesome day just hanging out with the other hikers on the trail. Everyone kind of congregates there at the Twin Lakes General Store and to eat food and to charge up our electronic devices. That's really the time consuming things. You know, it could take a couple hours to charge your phone or a power bank, and the visitor center there is just totally hiker friendly. Shout out to Waffles who works there. She's a former thru hiker, and they just opened up the visitor center. They make all their power strips available to charge devices, and they're happy to have hikers hang out on the front porch, which it's not always the case at businesses. There's a bunch of homeless looking people smelling bad and potentially scaring off visitors, I guess. So that was really cool. And so we just had a group of hikers hanging out, and it's really great to have that camaraderie. We are going through something, it's pretty difficult to be out here. It's telling you about the mosquitoes, and the hiking's pretty hard. There's definitely some steep sections. You're up at high elevation, and with the food and everything, there's a lot of physical discomfort involved. And to have a group of people who are going through the exact same thing as you, and these are total strangers, you know, who I've never met before. And shout out to Pops if you're watching this. She made a great point, which is like, yeah, we're probably never going to see each other again. But for those couple hours that we're hanging out, it's just, I'm just grateful to be around people and to talk to people, and then just to kind of make light of our situation and this hard thing that we're doing. So there's a reason why I do this, and I'll make a video probably later in the trail of the challenges and rewards. But you become a lot more resilient, and things that made me uncomfortable before, I'm way more comfortable with now. And it was funny, we're just sitting outside the visitor center on this wooden deck, you know, not really a comfortable place to sit. And everyone's just like, I am way too comfortable to get up and start hiking again, you know. In normal life, that would not be a pleasant place to just hang out all afternoon, getting swarmed by mosquitoes. And we were all just so happy to be there, to be charging our phones. And so you become very grateful for these simple things in life. So it's a pretty wild experience to have, and I just try to make the most of it while I'm out here, and it's usually all worth it. So that was my day yesterday. All right, I'm camped here at the base of the trail to Mount Yale, and the plan is to get an early start tomorrow and bag a 14er. All right, here we go. I'm heading up to Mount Yale. It's a 2-mile detour from the Colorado Trail, and it gains about 2,200 feet. And the description I have says there's a light trail with some scrambling involved, so we'll see how this goes. I'm bailing on my Mount Yale attempt. It's been pretty sketchy. There's a lot of loose rock, and I've only made it like 800 vertical feet, so it doesn't look like it's getting any easier. And being out here by myself, I'm gonna turn around and play it safe. Just about back at my campsite and safety, and that's the most important thing about this, is to make it back in one piece. And I would have liked to bag that 14er, but I went as far as I was comfortable going. This trail was a lot different than the Mount Massive Trail, which is like a maintained hiking trail. You just hike up. The hard part about that is just the cardio. This was very steep with a lot of loose gravel, to the point that I felt like I needed handholds, and then you know, it's just a big pile of rocks. When you're out here in the mountains, they go through this freeze-thaw cycle, and so a lot of the rocks are loose. So I was reaching out for handholds, and some of those rocks were moving, and kind of had to test every rock I was stepping on. And like I said, I did that for about an hour, and I only made it 800 vertical feet out of 2,200. And there was another huge obstacle coming up, so pulled the plug, and that's fine. You know, that was a bonus if I got up there. So I'm back to my campsite, gonna have my matcha, and then the trail really goes downhill a lot from here. It's going to be a lot lower elevation until I get to Salida. So and later today it goes through Mount Princeton Hot Springs, which will be a nice treat. There's a restaurant there, and if you want, you can soak in the hot springs. I might skip that. So it'll be a much more comfortable rest of the day. All right, I wanted to give you an update on how the food situation is going. And like I said in the first episode, I've prepared a lot of my own food for this trail. So the kale I showed you in the first episode, that has not been very appetizing, I guess. It's probably nutritious, but the other vegetables I dehydrated were kind of like a coleslaw mix. I basically grated up a bunch of carrots and beets and cabbage in a food processor and dehydrated that. And that has turned out really good. The carrots are really sweet and it looks really cool. The beets are really tasty. So if I did this again, I would skip the kale. The kale is kind of nice to add to some of the chili and other dinners that I made. But so that's that. And then I had my first failure, which was the salad dressing that I told you about. I blended up olive oil with garlic and ginger, and the garlic and ginger appeared to be growing something. There was some like red spots on that. So I've been tossing those, and then I picked up just a little bottle of this is coconut oil. It somehow is liquid coconut oil. I don't know what they did to it to make it liquid, because usually it's like semi-solid, but I've been adding that as a salad dressing. And then I got this little spice thing, so it's a souvlaki seasoning. It had the least amount of additives in it, I guess, at the Safeway in Leadville. So I've been adding that. And then the salmon jerky, it's actually stayed really good. I was a little worried about that going bad, but that's been really tasty. And then now I'm into the beef jerky. So this is homemade beef jerky, and it's pretty tasty. It's really dry. I dried it a lot because I needed it to stay good for several months, but so it's really chewy. But that's pretty good. So I've been doing that, and so that's how the lunches are going. And I wanted to show you before I eat it all. This is picandi, which is actually a recipe that's in the Phil Maffetone book that I talked about, the big book of endurance training. He has a bunch of recipes in there that are high fat, low carb. And stuff is like delicious. I mean, this is like gold on the trail. It's basically ghee, a bunch of grounded up different kinds of nuts, honey, tahini, Himalayan salt, and I can't remember what else, but maybe some other stuff in there. And I've been putting this in the chia seed pudding, and I mean, that's just delicious. So highly recommend Picandi by Phil Maffetone. He might have the recipe on his website. I think it's philmaffetone.com. He's got a bunch of recipes on there. So that's been good. And then the dinners are going pretty good. I've got a beef chili, a turkey chili, and then a Thai chicken curry and a lentil stew. And I would say they all taste really good. Dehydrating my own food for the first time, I wasn't sure how big to make the portions. And the portions are a little bit light, so I've just been buying extra cheese and tuna packets and stuff like that to throw in there. So overall, that's been it. The quality of the food is definitely better, so I've been really happy with that. And it was a lot of work before the trail started, but I'm enjoying the food so far. All right, I am almost to Colorado Highway 50, which is where I'm hitchhiking into Salida and taking a much needed rest day. I'm going to spend 2 nights there and take what's called a 0 day, which is hiking 0 miles. So that'll be tomorrow for me, and just get a lot of rest. It's been a long stretch since I was in Leadville, which was the last place I stayed inside and did laundry and stuff. So I definitely need that. The Collegiate East, I would say, kind of lived up to the expectations. It's definitely not as scenic as the Collegiate West. You're in the trees most of the time. The entire trail is below tree line. It gets kind of close in a couple spots, but having said that, you get a lot of nice views of 14ers. If you want to bag some 14ers, there's definitely access for that. They're just long hikes. I would say most of them are like 12 miles round trip with 4,000 plus feet of elevation gain, which is why I tried Mount Yale. That was the shortest one, but a little sketchy. So Overall, it was kind of a challenging stretch for me. The mosquitoes were just awful all the way from Tennessee Pass, which is where I got back on the trail from Leadville, to a couple days south of Twin Lakes. So that was like a 5 or 6 day stretch where I was just getting swarmed by mosquitoes all the time. And it was like anytime I'm eating, I had to basically be swatting mosquitoes away with my map to keep them out of my face. And so this just kind of wears on you mentally. It's just really annoying. So fortunately, those have died down. It seems like the monsoons are starting to pick up though. So the first day that I didn't have mosquitoes to deal with, it rained a lot, and I ended up getting pretty cold because I guess I didn't take the rain seriously enough. It was a warm day up until that point, and so at first it felt really good, and then it just kept raining and raining for probably at least an hour or two. And by the end of it, I was pretty cold. I need to get some insulated rain gloves, I think, because my hands were so cold from holding my hiking sticks that I was having trouble setting my tarp up when I stopped hiking, which is a problem. So the trail's only going to get higher from here, and that was down at like 9,000 feet. The next section's going to get into the San Juan Mountains, and a lot of the trail's up around 11, 12,000 feet. So I need to make sure my rain system is in place. I think that should do it for me. So that's it for the Collegiate East. Hope you enjoyed that scenery. There was some great scenery along the way. I enjoyed all the wildflowers, and it's always nice just to be walking in the woods all day. It's very peaceful. So that's that. The next stretch is kind of a long one for me, from Salida to Lake City. It's actually over 100 trail miles. This is kind of how it works out with the trail towns. You can hitch to Gunnison halfway in between if you want to, but it's like 40 miles from the trail. So a lot of the section is flat. I should be able to get some longer mileage days in. So I think it'll take about 5 or 6 days. But until then, stay safe and get out there and have an adventure. So I'll talk to you later.